Hello, Clark here with another Clark speech. In this Clark speech, I wanted to talk about a quick thought I had, which was rich people need to have less money. And in other words, I wanted to say to Americans in general, if you live in New York, if you live in anywhere from the east, west, middle, south, north, middle, we need less money in America. And what I mean by that is we have so much money in America that we have what's called discretionary funds. Tim Conway once did a sermon on this and said, in other countries in the world, they don't even have the ability to pay for things that are not food and drink and water. So if you're poor in America, you're still richer than 80 to 70% of the world. So imagine you meet God, right? And you make about $50,000 a year, and you meet God and you go to church once in a while and you do your thing, and all of a sudden God says, I would love to allow you into my kingdom, but there's one problem. What's the problem, God? You're too rich to enter. And I'm just doing a parable about this because I realize, no, you can be rich and go to heaven, you can be poor and go to hell, or the vice versa, or switched or retrograded as well. But the point I'm making is, think about it carefully. What if you met God? God was up there, and he tells you you're too rich to go to heaven. What would you say to him? I'd say, yeah, but I'd say, yeah, but Jesus died on the cross and rose again for that sin. So this is the point I'm making, is that, we are rich in America. We're too rich in America. This is why what I wanted to say in this video was one simple phrase before I hang up, and that is that we need less money in America. You might say to me, Joe, seriously, less money in America? That makes no sense. You're right, it doesn't. But to me, it does, because I realize that the more money you have, the more you're not going to be serving God with it. And I can give you an example. I met a very poor person, and they're a couple. It's a poor man and a poor woman. And the woman's very beautiful, and the man's very harsh looking. And they sleep in the woods or whatever. And this woman needed money for her medicine, and I'm just saying this as an example, but I couldn't afford the entire medicine because it was over $25, but I ended up giving him some money for it. And I thought to myself, um I regret not giving him the full amount. But with other people, it'd be like, I've asked for drinks before from Americans and they say no. I've asked for money before from Americans and they pass around by. I've asked for cars from Americans, they say no. I've asked for all sorts of things. And unless you're a friend of a friend of a friend, they're basically not going to give you anything, or nilch or nada. And that's really sad because, like I said, you got to love your enemy and love your stranger and love your neighbor as yourself. You look at the parable of, for example, in Luke 10:30, you have the parable of the Good Samaritan. The Good Samaritan gets beat up by a bunch of people and thrown on the ground. A priest goes by, passes by on the other side. A Levite goes by, passes by on the other side. But a Samaritan who's not even from the country takes him in, puts him on his inn, and puts him in an inn, and puts him on his camel, and heals his wound with oil, and takes him into the inn, and pays whatever he's going to repay later. This is what the Good Samaritan is teaching you, is that your actions have to line up. See, I don't care if you're wearing this if you don't want to help a homeless person. I don't care if you're not wearing this if you don't care about the least of these. I don't care if you're wearing this if you're not loving your neighbor and your family and forgiving everyone in the world. Because what good is this if you go to hell? Honestly, what good is this if you go to hell? And I thought to myself, a lot of people are going to hell. There's going to be probably 80 or 90% of people all over where I'm living now that are going to burn in hell. And it's going to be their own gosh forsaken fault, all because they came against God's elect, they came against the chosen of God, and they came against the justifier, Father God Almighty.